My name's David Lids. I run an impact real estate portfolio in Baltimore, Maryland, where we're rebuilding distressed houses and distressed neighborhoods and trying to keep equity and governance in that portfolio we're accumulating within the community. So we are a kind of a DAO waiting to happen. I want to keep this short. So I'm trying to make inways into the W3 community so I can start to find technology that would help us embolden our mission and then ultimately scale it. And I found my first DAO, or got into my first DAO Commons, the Common Stack about 2 weeks ago. And from there, I went here, and here I am. And so I'm here just to learn at this point.
That's cool. Well, welcome. I think you found the right place for giving your mission. So welcome. Okay, so I'm going to turn our music back on. Okay. Thanks, Nick. And David, hopefully you were able to hear on your phone. If you look on, this is gonna be blurred. But if you look on your phone, there'll be a list of participants in the meeting on Discord, and you can just click on the thing that says right click to turn down, and there'll be a volume control there. Hey, Chewy. And hey, Mert.
Thank you, Dan.
So we're going to start off today with a check-in question. This check-in question is, in the next 6 months, are we better off focusing our fundraising efforts on spurring donations, like philanthropic donations, like grants, that kind of stuff, or on trying to increase token holding, so like people actually buying the token? So let's start. I'm going to turn it over. Nate, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So between the philanthropic option and raising utility for tokens and getting more people active in our economy, I would prefer choosing the latter. Doing the first one ensures that the second one happens in the long term. And so I think on the infinite time horizon, yes, philanthropic efforts and where our money goes is really important, but we need to make sure that what we fund has impact, what we fund provides visibility, and that will generate utility for the token. However, there are there are some small things that we can do for the utility of the TEC token and bring that into people's wallets that gives them access to small things, and these small things, they may not change the game individually, but in the aggregate, it will be hugely beneficial later on. And so for me right now is like, let's figure out how to provide some type of utility for this token and to allow it to generate as many new hands as possible. But that's just my opinion. And I'll throw it over to Gene. How about you?
Hey, and sorry, let me just interrupt just very quickly. Hey, Bear, I apologize. Actually, we talked, Bear was suggesting that maybe we don't take down notes for this check-in process, because are we really going to use this information? And so we're going to just try. I'm sorry, Bear, I completely forgot, and I started taking notes. So we can stop. We're basically just going to we're going to try going forward to use notes. We'll get into this in a little bit more later, but we're going to take down notes when this is more like an official advice process. We'll continue on that. I'll explain more in a little bit. Gene, sorry to interrupt.
Not at all, sir. Yeah. I concur with Nate's sentiment on the importance of the long-term utility and whatnot, but in the short term, I'm going to say we should focus on philanthropic grants and whatnot, and ideally just to specifically fund the production of utility. So kind of the short-term goal versus the long-term goal. Yeah, that's a simple view. And pass to Chewy.
Thank you, Gene. I think that like being open to donations and all of that is really nice. But I feel that what's really like cool and innovative about the TEC, it's its own like economic engine. So yeah, I feel that maybe if we ask ourselves like how to attract value in a way, makes more sense if it is under an idea like the augmented bonding curve. So uh, I wouldn't be against donations, but if it's like putting efforts in either one or the other, I feel that behind the TEC there are a lot of causes that have used just crowdfunding and donations as its main like source of income, and I feel that we would be just not taking the most out of this like economic engine itself. And I'll pass it to Andy.
Thanks, Chewy. Well, so yeah, on the same page, I would focus on token utility. If we were, say, more desperate or something, I would probably say fundraising efforts. But given that we have something to work with and limited resources overall, I think it makes much more sense to use them on the long term, which is the token utility. And I'll pass it over to Rex.
Cool. So in my opinion, it's kind of, I don't know how far token utility takes you without a sustainable economy. To me, speaking about the token always has to be kind of in a human-centric way, rather than in kind of adding utility to the token for the token's sake. Because I feel otherwise we'd fall prey to over-engineering and just not creating a self-sustaining economy. And also, I've started to delve more deeply into the augmented bonding curve, and although at the start I thought that fundraising kind of needed to be done straight away, I feel like now, up to a certain extent, like not doing anything is going to put pressure on unsustainable working groups, and it's kind of despotic, right? But I think that like if we do fundraising, it should be almost gatekept, or most of it shouldn't go into the bonding curve mechanism, because like it's falling. It's going to be falling rather than increasing for a while, and I wouldn't want to pressure, like just throw more money at it so as to push away the austerity process farther in the future. But I feel like there's a balance there that we need to find as to working groups rethinking how they operate in order to become sustainable, and actually like providing them with enough funds. And I don't think it's been that way for the first few months of this augmented bonding curve. Yeah, so that's all my thoughts. No, who's missing?
Do you want to pass it to somebody?
Yes. So Gina's gone, Enti's gone. Have you gone yet?
I haven't gone yet, but Bear hasn't gone, Crypto Zach hasn't gone, and
right,
David, I don't
pass
know
it to Bear.
if you want to say something, but you might, it might be good to hear yours too.
I'll pass it to Bear. There you go.
Yeah, thank you, Rex. Yeah, so in my opinion, I think it's mostly about finding a balance between two of the priorities that I think we have. One, I think it's just making sure that the TEC survives in terms of funds and it's able to keep funding its operations, to consequently being able to actually fulfill its mission, right? That it's all these services and providing the token utility so the bonding curve actually works. So I feel it's just like doing these two efforts in parallel. I would say that probably making sure that we have enough funds, it might have a little more priority, because if we run out of funds, then we won't just be able to do anything else, right? So yeah, I would say the two things have to happen at the same time, but maybe, and if the question is about the next 6 months, yeah, I would say that based on our spending rate and the projections that we have, I think it's important to consider how are we getting the funds that we need to keep advancing. So yeah, I think that would be it. I pass it to CryptoSec.
CryptoZach, if you're speaking, you're still muted.
Hey, I missed the first part of the question. I would hopped off for another call for a second. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is, for the next 6 months, are we better off focusing our fundraising efforts on spurring donations, like philanthropic donations, grants, that kind of stuff, or on trying to increase token holding, purchasing the token?
Yeah, great question. I think that if we do it, if we focus more on, well, the main thing I'm thinking about for this question is what can generate the most value for the TEC community and for the ecosystem. So, and I think if we spend these funds, if we utilize these funds in a way that does generate a lot of value, then there's going to be a natural demand for people to hold the token. So it's a question of increasing the value of our network and of this community. And if our activities do generate a return on investment and generate yield on our funds, then the token holders are going to come naturally.
Okay.
So just to sum it all up, I think we should use our funds on activities that will generate a return on our funds. Whether it be by investing them in investment opportunities or funding philanthropic opportunities that might have retroactive rewards for our participation.
Okay, thank you. And David, I don't know if you have a perspective to share at this point, or would just prefer to pass.
I might. I mean, I come from the social enterprise space, and within that spectrum, you have one side which is pretty nonprofity and heavily dependent on philanthropic support, and on the other side, you have businesses that kind of have a mission, but can, for the most part, sustain themselves and just need a little programmatic support. I live on that side, and I just think that is a much more powerful paradigm. I think on the other side, you end up having mission creep because you're trying to please your donor. You spend a lot of time, out there begging when you could be building stuff. And then my experience, and that viewpoint is really why I've come to your doorstep, is because I believe tokenomics gives us more power to contribute to build an economy, that behaves in a way that is inclusive and compassionate and all that. And the last thing I'll say is I've been on one other TEC call at this point, and Gene and I kind of kicked around some ideas and figured out a pretty cool model to use your conflict resolution app. And forgive me, I'm forgetting the name of it. I'm so new, but like I could totally spend some of the money from our portfolio enterprise, buying into this service that would kind of step in when there was a landlord tenant dispute and depend upon that app or that smart contract to try to keep us out of rent court and away from eviction. So I would go for the utility.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad I asked you. That's a very interesting response. Thank you. I totally resonate with that. Having run a mission-driven tech consulting organization for 10 years, that's my experience too. Is that the social enterprise aspect is very, very powerful. My answer very quickly on this is I think we're better off focusing on token holding. I think that in the next 6 months, the amount of grants that are going to be available and the amount of philanthropy that is going to be flowing is going to be relatively low. And so our efforts are probably better spent trying to pump up the utility of the token, the perceived utility of the token, why somebody would actually hold it, and then be able longer term to turn to the philanthropic thing. And I think, NT, I think, yeah, it was NT who forwarded me this Ethereum Foundation report that basically talks about how they want regranters, somebody like groups of organizations and networks of people who can help them to spend their money wisely. And I think we could be longer term really well positioned to work with Ethereum Foundation to, as a regranter, channel lots of money into token engineering. But that's a longer term thing, I think. Okay, thank you, everybody. So the rest of the call today, I'm going to do a quick update on something, this token gate for the Discord channel, just very quick. Rex is going to do a demo of the working group accounting template, and then the rest of it is going to be Nate walking us through some exercises around the Treasury policy. So really quickly on the Discord channel, basically in one of the more recent SoftGov working group calls, we were kind of talking about this idea of token gating a Discord channel. This is one of our objectives or one of our goals for this first season of Sampo. And the question that, I am very concerned about, and I'm not alone, it's echoed in this call too, is what the impact of a token gate might be on the culture. And so we talked about that, and basically what we agreed was that it would be smart to just test it out in kind of a safe way. And so the test that we want to move forward on is to basically set up a Discord text channel that would be just available to token holders, TDC token holders, and that we would use it as a way of kind of just like updating token holders on what's going on. The kinds of content that would be in that channel would be things like the working group updates that Costa does every week, updates on like conviction voting and the kind of the overall spending of the common pool, financial updates, maybe the audit, when the audit comes out, some notes about that, and maybe even like job postings kind of thing. So basically this is for people who are participating in the economic layer of the TC, which is what you're doing if you're holding the token. That's one of the aspects of it. So the next steps on this is I've drafted just a quick description that just basically says what I just said, and I'll post it up on the forum next week to see what kind of feedback we get. And then assuming we're good, if we get a lot of feedback, we'll put it up to a vote. If not, we'll probably just move forward. Okay, so with that, Rex, do you want to share your screen? Can you do that?
Okay, cool. I switched mics. So there was a lot of feedback on the last one. Yeah, so in transparency, we've been working to get the data from.
Sorry to interrupt you, Rex. Are other people seeing Rex's screen?
I'm not.
No.
Okay, right. Let me try again then. Stop streaming. Let's try this. Is that working now?
Yeah.
Okay,
But
cool.
you need to zoom in a bit.
So yeah. So our transparency, ever since we kind of finished on that Dune, on that Dune dashboard, just kind of been working on this bit, right? On getting all of the working groups balances and transaction history all together, so then we can start making some comparisons. And I want to say kind of the backbone of it is finally here, and here's just to kind of show you, because it'd be useful for Sampo to kind of get some idea of these. Maybe let me know if there's other kind of visualizations that we could do and I haven't thought about, so as to kind of tell us what the state of our DAO is. So this one's, you can see the query is quite big, but basically all it's doing is grabbing everybody's. So each working group has its own like Excel spreadsheet, and Sampo has its own, and then Gravity and so on, and then I just add them all here. And so in this view, you can see kind of what this is like the master transaction Excel spreadsheet, where you can see like everything that has been spent from the working group multi-sigs and on what. So specifically on like categories, whether they're, I put recurring as like proxy for fixed costs, but then we can also see some nice views out of this. So this one's how much. So we've added 4 working groups at the moment, and the others are still being processed, let's say. So those will be coming in. We have 2 more coming in this week, and then the rest in the following weeks. But yeah, so in this one you can see Communitas, Gravity, Stewards, and Transparency. Like how much are they spending in XDAI? And across the whole of the TEC, how much is being spent on all of these different categories, right? So are we spending most of our money on education? Well, no, most of our money is going on operations and administrative costs for the working groups, right? And most of our costs are actually fixed. And if we check by date, actually, if I do that, create a group by month, we can see. Okay, I've broken this, but anyway, you could get at some other ideas. So this is just an idea I had of maybe checking how much is our monthly fixed cost, right? This is something that we can get out of this table, and then see if we want to kind of aspire for this common pool balance, let's say, then our sustainable incomes need to be like similar to the monthly fixed costs that we're getting. So yes. Any questions? Any things you might want to see out of this?
Hey Rex, can you just so one question is, this is the every working group is going to have its own copy of this, and then they will roll up into a TEC master view. Is that right?
Yeah. So if I open the Gravity one, because it's the first one we did, it's going to open on another tab. No worries, I'll copy over this thing. Right. If I open the Gravity one, you can see the first sheet, like over here, it's got some nice colors, but it's the same sheet. It's the same format as that first tab out of all of them. So yes, each working group, rather than kind of having so many different ways of saying, right, we spent so much money, and then giving that to us, to transparency, to then kind of provide some sort of audit on it. Like every working group has a template of this one, and then they can kind of fill out, date, who's getting it, and like what token it is, and give some more information about where the money's gone and why. So yes, if I
And
show
can
you
you show
another
the-
one that, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, actually, can you just show the dashboard tab?
For this one, okay, sure. So on each of the working groups, we've built a dashboard for XDAI, TC, and Give. So Gravities doesn't want Give at the moment because they don't have many good flows, but so you can see kind of per token what the inflow outflow is monthly and how much they're spending on each category on this one here, and then how much of their funds they've spent and how much is remaining from the last. Well, yeah. So how much out of their like initial balance they've spent is this pie chart here, and the same for this one. So I believe they bought some TC. That's why there's an inflow of TC and an outflow, bigger outflow of XDAI. And yes, I think that this is automatic on every working group. So once they start filling out the transaction sheet, like each working group will get that information. Now, the master sheet should be useful to Sampo. I'm just sort of wondering what sort of visualizations you want to see. Are the tables enough, or do you want to see some charts, some nice charts on top of that, or kind of where should we focus our efforts on? Because before we say, right, this is the finished product.
So my recommendation today, just because we're a little bit short on time, is maybe what we do is in one of the upcoming calls, share this in advance so people can play around with it a little bit and have a little bit more time to just kind of digest it and then get some feedback on. I think particularly like the infographics, like what would be useful to people.
Yeah.
I just want to say that this is a really amazing job. I mean, there was a lot of work that obviously went into this. This is going to be super helpful for the TEC, just in getting clarity on where we actually are in our total spend and how, like where we're going. I mean, really remarkable.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah,
It's a
and
nice job.
for transparency, it's going to be useful because we're going to start pulling the Dune data and contrasting it to kind of what the working groups say are doing, just to see, like, 'cause it brings a high level of transparency to say, like, right, there's 1,000 XDAI missing. Where's it gone? At the moment, we don't have that sort of information. So the kind of the audit is very shallow, and it takes complete trust on the working groups. And I don't think, like, I don't think anybody is like actively like being malevolent, but it's something that needs to be there to have like an audit. So that's other stuff we're doing. And
Okay,
maybe we could call like a big one. Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm over the time limit. So yes, I'll put this on the Discord, and please comment away. Add comments everywhere, and I'll take a look at them and respond onto the spreadsheet. I mean,
Awesome. Anybody have any just quick comments or questions right now for Rex? Okay. Well, we can, like I said, we'll do a follow-up session on this for some more detailed feedback for Rex. I mean, this is basically a super powerful engine now, and so the data visualization will be how we make it even more usable and accessible. So that will be kind of an important next step. Thank you, Rex. Thanks for showing that. Okay, Nate, are you ready to take us away on a magical mystery tour of Treasury management?
Yeah. All right. So this is going to be a bit of an interactive, and this is so I would appreciate everybody's engagement on this. So if you have used the Clarity, please go to the Sampo page if you can. If you haven't, I want to go ahead and organize that now and making sure that we get all the permissions correct. So if you want the link to the Sampo Clarity page, it's going to be in the Sampo text channel. I just posted, and you can navigate your way there. And I'll give it just a minute. Is anybody not on this Sampo page or hasn't accessed this Clarity page yet?
I think there's definitely going to be a couple people who have not.
Okay.
You can, yeah, let's see.
Yeah, if at all possible, if you can't get access and you're trying to get access, please speak up and we'll get you set away. But I do want to walk you through, and I want everybody to get used to using Clarity because it really is quite an awesome tool to use. And so if you watch my screen, we're going to go to the TEC Sampo page for those who are already there. If you click on the roadmap, we're going to go down to the Develop a Treasury Policy and Strategy and Begin Earning Yield. And within this is our project page. And then within it, we have a task that we have is to draft a Treasury policy document. And this is what we're going to go over today. So at the very beginning, I just want to say that there's a fund manager interest list. So if you're interested in being a fund manager or just staying up to date with this Treasury policy document, this is where if you could put your name just at yourself underneath on this list. So just before we begin going over this draft Treasury policy document kind of overview and walking you through what we're trying to accomplish with this, I do want to say that recently I've been in contact with Llama DeFi, which is kind of this, it's an economic treasury management firm, if you will, with a bunch of treasury management experts that have helped out with Uniswap, Aave, major protocols. And I think one of the interesting aspects of this is they develop plans for these types of organizations just to get their type of organization off the ground and moving forward. And they've done a really good job. And it's going to be interesting trying to work with them to develop a plan for a smaller scale. So most of their work has been centered around large protocols with millions and millions and millions of dollars within their treasury. This one will be for the TEC. That is going to be centered around an organization that has, maybe a couple 100,000. And so how do we approach treasury management for that? And so I'm looking forward to having them help us organize this. But for the first part of this, I just want to say that I know there's been a lot of doubts or people who have been hesitant to keep moving forward with this, just due to the risk associated with treasury management, which will always come. We, as an organization, you're going to have a treasury. It's just part of it, and this is going to have an infinite time horizon, and we need to have that mentality. So whether we start off with $10,000 or $150,000 or $300,000, we're moving forward with this function within the TEC, and it's a really valuable thing to have to invest and diversify our treasury. And so we become more resilient to economic downturns, to protocol flaws, to ABC errors. There's a lot of things that can happen, and we need to be prepared for that. And so right now, our mission is to develop this draft treasury policy document. And thank you, Gene and Gideon, for writing your name there. If you put your name down there, I will keep you updated. At the end of the day, we're going to have a single Word document that I'm going to develop on, and then I want to send out to all of you to continually edit, comment, so on. So with that being said, I just want to kind of go over the.
Hey, Nate.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but there's a link directly to the document now. If you go in the text channel for this call, it's in the upper right. You can see it says show chat, and then there's a link there that links directly to this document. If anybody's having trouble accessing this document or being able to edit it, just mention that in the channel and I'll try to help you out. Either I or NT or will try to help you out. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Gene. I appreciate that. I mean, we're getting. So within this document, here's kind of the mission of this document. It says, within this document, we will attempt to define the current tools, obstacles, and options for developing a system of treasury management within the TEC, define the purpose and goals of the treasury, as well as looking at different investment strategies and what they offer us in the current economic climate. This is something that is very important. So one of the things that we want to do is the first thing what we want to do is get our statement of purpose, which we'll work on in a second as a collective. The next thing, we want to have a good financial understanding of our current finances. And Rex has done an amazing job of actually aggregating all that information into easily digestible data sets, which I really appreciate, Rex. We're going to very much need those skills within this group. And then defining the economic setting is the second part. So how do we navigate treasury management in a multi-chain environment? We're going to have funds on not only Gnosis chain, but on Ethereum, and then any other chain we wish to do, including layer twos. If we're dealing with large amounts of money, it might be beneficial for us to move to a layer two to reduce the gas costs associated with different types of transactions. With that being said, there's trade-offs to moving to different chains. Benefit is that we can have our own investment strategies for each chain, which is really awesome. Something that not a lot of DAOs are doing. But the drawback is that you sacrifice the security. And so, how do we manage those risks? How do we manage administrative risks? How do we keep up to date? And what are we looking at in terms of when something goes wrong? How do we act? And so that is really something that we have to evaluate, is the economic setting of where we put our treasury and how we manage it and where we manage it. The second problem that we have is the multi-sig agent problem, which is what is controlled by a multi-sig of individuals versus what is operated by an individual themselves. And what types of dynamics do we need to have? What kind of trust do we need to have? Are there any accountability measures that we can implement? Next is, of course, the agent conflict of interest. This is really important, that if we do have a single agent investing in funds, that there are no conflict of interest with their own funding. We don't want to have these types of this perception of impropriety with anyone that is working as a fund manager. And so this is a very important document that we need to articulate. Gnosis Safe Review. This is something that we will probably rely on a lot, as they're kind of basically a partnering organization. We're built on their chain. They have a Gnosis Safe that we use, and most of the industry uses. It's a very good multi-sig management tool, and there are some weaknesses, there are some strengths, and we have to really start building a relationship and kind of have an outline of that. I know that NT and Bear, you've possibly talked about the management structure, an organizational structure for how we do this. Did you guys have any comments on that?
You mean as far as the safe?
Yeah, for just the overall structure for how the treasury might work.
Well, I can I'm not really sure. I can probably talk about. I was really more looking into the tooling per se. But the general organization, it's probably a bit more tricky. I was thinking about the multi-chain environment. I don't think that's going to be as much of an issue, because like the moment the funds are out of the common pool, you have pretty much the same risk on any EVM chain. What I think it's going to, what I think we have to be careful with is with uh, we, we we should probably have a really strong policy or procedure around the bridging funds. Because for example, if we are basing everything on multi-sig, we have to use bridges that allow us for different receivers. Because say for example, in the case of, I don't know if you listen to the optimism scandal where they sent some address to multi-sig. That address was mainnet in multi-sig. I'm sorry, I'm like getting getting everything together. But smart contracts are not don't have deterministic addresses, so we have to be careful when rigging. The only risk is that we rig to a different address that we don't have control over.
Yeah, I remember the optimism. They sent the funds to what they assumed was their address on the mainnet, and that address didn't exist, and somebody claimed that address and took the money. So, yeah, so bridging is a huge issue, and so these are the types of things that are kind of blended in, and whatever work you have there, I would definitely like help with on this policy document. So that's a big part of it, this management structure. And thank you, Antti, for your statements on that. The next big component is the decision making. This is a huge one where whatever investment strategies we do end up having, how do we make decisions? If something goes wrong, what are the steps in making decisions? How do we make decisions when we have, a requirement of 4 out of 5 people on a multi-sig? How do we communicate with each other? These are things that are very, very important. And so that's something that needs to be developed. Community expectations. This is a big one, especially in the short term. How do we manage community expectations? A lot of individuals believe that this initiative is going to be the savior in the short term, and that's a lot to handle. And so managing expectations so we can do what we're supposed to do responsibly and ethically as we move forward is really important. And I encourage you, if you have any thoughts on these topics as we move forward, please state them, and then we'll incorporate them into a main document. This comes back to, next one is transparency and financial reporting. This is one where Rex, I think you're going to have a big influence on, and the transparency working group in particular. And what are we expected to report on? How do we do it? What vehicles do we use? When do we report? These are all things that need to be incorporated. And then we get to our actual investment strategies. These are the 4 main ones that I'm looking at right now that I'm actually studying and putting in time to actually write up a plan for. There are more investment strategies than just this. Governance swap using GTC RAD as an example. Recently, Gitcoin and RAD in collaboration with Llama did the first governance swap where they swapped governance tokens to diversify their portfolio and have this active public goods collective initiative where they're having an agent represented in each of these DAOs to vote and allocate those funds and influence voting decisions in one another. And so that could be a very, really cool way to get diversity within our treasury. Identifying partnering organizations might be a little harder than we initially think, but it's very much possible. Stable coins, of course, there's a whole myriad of stable coins evaluating what options are good, what options are not good, which are risky and which are not risky, are very important. But the importance is that we do get into stable coins and we make sure we diversify those. X tokens, making unproductive tokens productive, and yield optimization. So this is things like Yearn, where we can get yield on the tokens that we do own. This is the last things that we need to do are evaluate the revenue management. Once we generate revenue from these investments, where do they go? Are they sent back to the common pool? Are they used to buy up TEC tokens? Are they, do we start our own grant body in collaboration with the common pool? These are all big questions that we have to ask. And then the interaction between Treasury and the ABC. How do we know when to send money? Do we buy TEC directly from the ABC? Do we just send it to the common pool? What are the pros and cons of of having this big treasury and maybe less money in the common pool. And then, of course, the advice process and review. But so these are the things that I want to go over, and I want this document to be something that you put your thoughts in. These are the main kind of macro taxonomy that I've got for what this policy document needs to include. And so if you have any thoughts on any of these things, please add a comment, and thank you, Minty, for putting that comment under Notice of Safe Review. But the one thing that I wanted to do with this last 10 minutes is to go over the statement of purpose. So if you click on the statement of purpose here, I would like to try to have everybody, if you're in this call, to put your own statement of purpose at the end right now, if you can. And then we'll kind of review it next week as a small task within the Sampo working group call, and we'll evaluate which elements that we want to keep, which ones we don't, and so on. So, does anybody have any questions about this document in general and this particular task?
I'll probably think more about it and keep posting a few comments on there.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. I do appreciate it. And is there anything that anybody feels like there's missing or that should be addressed that's not included within this kind of overview of the Treasury policy?
Nate, I added something in there in a note or in a comment about the size of the investments that we're making. Like, are we doing small, large, and then also looking at the impact on the common pool, and then what that does to overall spending. I think that would be good to call out.
Yeah. And this is a conversation that we really have to collectively have in terms of the proposal that we're going to create. I think that will come more with the advice process with the community. Once we make a forum post for it, I think we should have an ideal, like, maximum version of it, which I would say would be around like 300,000, slightly less than 50% of the common pool, and say, hey, this is what we're proposing, and then have them negotiate us down from there. Because I think that, we're going to have pushback no matter what, and so if we say we want to request 100,000, we still get pushed back down to 70. Well, it's rough. So I'd rather go the maximum we can, which I think would be around 300K, and then have the community push us down from there and see what we can do. Even if it just sits there in a multi-sig and interest-bearing stable coin for 6 months, it's better than just leaving it within the common pool just to sit there. So these are the types of comments that we have to really convey and be very tactful with the rest of the community. But I don't think they're going to accept not doing anything, and so that's my only thoughts about that.
About that same thing, we probably have to have also a minimum number where it's not even worth to try for the negotiation. And I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, yeah. I think I've said this before. I think we should have within the proposal, say, like, if we are requesting especially high amounts of funds, probably study a configuration for the conviction voting, so the funds that we get out doesn't affect other proposals that may come in after.
I have a question on the source of these funds. Is there any way we could, are grants meaningful enough to kind of gatekeep grants onto this project? or is that like overcomplicating things?
What exactly do you mean by gatekeep?
Like, get a bunch of grants and don't put them through the common pool and put them onto treasury management so as to not touch the common pool too much. Or do go 50-50 something, some sort of top up with grants so that we put the
Grants coming
grants
from where,
onto
though?
Okay.
No, sorry. I may just be misunderstanding. So where would the grants be coming from?
I have no idea. It's just an open question.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So most of the funds that we would receive are going to be coming from the common pool in general. I suppose there's a way we could outsource it, but I doubt anybody, like, through like a Gitcoin something. But I doubt anybody will invest money into an investment fund that they don't own, or donate to an investment fund for a public good. It's a possibility, but I'm not quite sure. I think most of this money is going to come from the common pool, just because that's the way our economy is set up. And I'm not sure if there is any type of external funding. Maybe we could look at the laser tag multi-sig wallet and see if they were willing to do something with it, because their funds are just sitting there as well. And I believe they were supposed to be a little bit more active in the management of those funds, and I don't think they have been. And so that could be something we could look into as well. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that, Gideon?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Laser tag is really, it's not being actively managed, and I think it should be probably folded into this effort. Yeah. I can't even remember how much is in there. Let me look and see.
It's a good amount. I think most of it is in TEC tokens, which I would like to probably use that straight up for like a governance swap with some partnering projects, but I think they have like 0.8 ETH and a significant amount of wrapped XDAI, so it could be around 50,000.
They have 0.8 ETH. There's 2,645 give and almost 60k worth of 60k TEC. And our liquidity pool with give it in the TEC.
Yeah, so they're managing the LP tokens with their partnership, and I'm not sure how much of that is going to be allocated towards the water index liquidity as well. So that would be something to investigate, but I'm not quite sure if we've already done that or not. Maybe we have.
Yeah, that already went through. Pretty sure. Yeah.
But the funds have been sent already? Okay. So that's 60,000 TEC, that's like $120,000, nearly. So, that's a good amount of money, and something that we could use to maybe even partially allow them to manage liquidity if need be. But I do think that a part of this conversation is to really ask the laser tag team what exactly their mission is, what their plans are, and review what exactly they're providing for us at this moment.
So Nate, we're just about 2 minutes away. What would, from the end of the hour, what would you're basically going to be pulling together this document that'll be like a Google Doc, is that right?
Yep, that is correct.
And what would you ideally like from folks in Sampo right now? Like commenting on the doc, or
commenting on the doc? Yeah, I think commenting on the doc, commenting on this page, and honestly, just having if you have ideas or something that you're willing to investigate. For example, in the realm of investment strategies, if you've had experience investing in like curve finance, if you've had experience investing in Balancer or Yearn, your experience is valuable. I think that understanding how these protocols work, these DeFi protocols work, and understanding how to start building the informational infrastructure so more people can participate is really, really important. So if you do have time and you do have the experience utilizing these protocols, I think commenting on them or even creating your own section within this document to evaluate the pros, the cons, the risks associated with each of these types of investment strategies would be really, really, really valuable. And so I would encourage you guys to just, this is going to be a collective effort. This is something that I think all of us, if we do this right, we can really kind of set the stage for how small to mid-cap size tokens start investing and managing a treasury of that size, and what to expect and how to keep moving forward and start building some funds. So yeah, if you have ideas, you have thoughts around this, I think this document here in Clarity and the document that I'll post the link for the first draft of the Treasury policy document, and please add your comments and thoughts, because anything you can think of will have impact. So yeah.
And Nate,
That's
what's
right.
your timing? What's your timing for feedback?
In terms of like overall, like when we want to get this done, I think you set this deadline for like at the end of this month in July. Is that correct? And so I think we could have a really good evaluating all the comments within, maybe bi-weekly. And so let's say we'll have a mid halfway through, we'll evaluate all the comments and thoughts and really settle in, and then we'll have one at around maybe 3 weeks, and then try to propose a final roadmap for the proposal and advice process of the community, and then a final document to be produced. So if we can get this done by the end of July, I think it'd be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So the goal would be to have it go through the community feedback and then have a final document by the end of July. Is that?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. And so, yeah, if you can get all your comments and efforts in by mid-July, and then we can start with the community process and then move forward from there.
Okay. So you'll post it in the Sampo channel, and then people can comment from. All right. Okay. Thank you, Nate. Book's great. Everybody, thank you for your time today. Thanks for the call, and we'll talk to you all next week, if not before. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Take
you.
care.